Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. Today we're taking a look, continuing with our season previews as we're looking at Texas Tech going into the 2022 season. A lot of optimism surrounding this program. Obviously, the new head coach, Joey McGuire. But before we get into Texas Tech, just wanted to thank all of you guys who've supported the channel, checking out our videos, subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, and leaving your comments in the comment section. The football discourse, the interactions we've guys had with you guys, and the support you have shown to the channel has been absolutely incredible. And I just wanted to thank you guys for all of that. So if you guys do like the content and you want to consider subscribing to the channel, that would absolutely be awesome. Now, let's start talking some Texas Tech football. As we mentioned, Joey McGuire coming in. Matt Wells wasn't horrible for Texas Tech, but I give Texas Tech credit for maybe seeing the direction this program is going and recognizing early that Matt Wells might not be the guy for the job. I think the narrative around Texas Tech football is like they're part of the doormat of the Big 12 football. I mean, they were 7-6 last year, awfully competitive in a lot of games, and are bringing back a lot of guys that you have to be optimistic about. And it seems like a lot of people are kind of down on Texas Tech for not very good reasons. So getting into the offensive side of the ball, what's even more important that Coach McGuire comes in, I think, as a more of a recruiter. There's not many people that know Texas high school football better than Joey McGuire. And I think the purpose of bringing him is winning those recruiting battles for those Texas football athletes. If Texas Tech is going to be back to one of those more dominant teams, they got to start recruiting better at the high school level. And I think that's why you bring in Joey McGuire. Now, what even is potentially even a bigger hire is bringing in the OC from Western Kentucky and Coach Zach Kittley. Absolutely phenomenal year with Western Kentucky. They broke all sorts of passing records. I believe Joe Burrow's record was broken. A very, very impressive offense that he brought. And now he's going to bring it to Texas Tech. Starting off looking at the quarterbacks, you got a classic quarterback battle that I don't think will be figured out until week one. You got Donovan Smith, kind of the young gun who showed a lot of good things from what I saw in the film. But I also like Tyler Shaw a lot. I mean, he was 3-0, got hurt in that Texas game, and then he was doing well, completing over 70, almost 70% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He looked accurate. He looked really good at processing the field. And I think he's going to fit a little bit better with what Coach Kittley's going to want to do. They like to throw the ball all over the field. And I think Tyler Shaw is probably the most suitable guy for that offense. I'm thinking he's going to win the job, but it's real. I don't think they can go wrong with a guy like Donovan Smith either. I know there's a third quarterback that they like a lot as well. I think it's probably between those two guys. I think Morton can maybe get himself in contention, but I think it'd be between Tyler Shaw and Donovan Smith. Now, whatever quarterback wins that job and is quarterback one, I think will be helped a lot by a really, really good two-headed running back monster with Saradrick Thompson and Taj Brooks. They bring a lot. I watched Taj Brooks against Houston. He absolutely looked awesome against a really, really good Houston defense. So he brings a lot of optimism in the run game. And I think establishing an effective run game is going to help whatever quarterback wins that job a lot. It's going to open up a lot of passing windows. And I think the number one thing that they might look to do is establish a little bit of a run game, which Coach Kittley didn't really do at Western Kentucky. Looking at the pass catchers, though, this is where I have the biggest question marks. They relied heavily on I'm going to mess up his name, Eric Azukima, who I loved in the 2022 NFL draft process. A lot of people like Treylon Burks. He's like the Treylon Burks of the Big 12. I mean, really, really big, physical at the catch point. He has great long speed. I believe ran a faster 40 than Treylon Burks, and just for some reason wasn't getting as much national attention. He was a very good football player, and it's going to be hard to replace him. And you look at what Coach Kittley's going to want to do on that offense, he's going to want to spread it out. They had 4 guys at Western Kentucky go over 500 yards. 2 of them went over 1,000 yards. So you're going to need a lot of pass catchers to step up. And there's not a lot of returning production. I mean, you look at Miles Price, he's probably going to be the number one target in this offense. But other than that, there's not a single guy returning to this Texas Tech team that's gone over 200 yards. One guy I want to mention is Baylor Kopp, coming over from Texas A&M in the transfer portal. A former top 60 recruit at Texas A&M, the number one tight end in the 2019 class. 6'7", 245 pounds. He's a big target that I think will help out a lot in the red zone. Coach Kitley at Western Kentucky didn't like to utilize the tight ends that much. I think Baylor Kopp, if anything, will be a great red zone target. And in the Big 12, you need to score touchdowns in the red zone. I think Baylor Kopp will help Texas Tech do that. Looking at the offensive line, I think this is a strength of the unit, and that's going to be really important. You know they're going to want to throw the ball a lot. Pass protection is going to be a must. Obviously, you got to have a guy like Winston Wright, who's been very, very good for Texas Tech, but they also hammered the transfer portal to kind of fill in those gaps. I mean, you got Monroe Mills from Oklahoma State, Cole Spencer from Western Kentucky, and they're also, I believe, pick up in I don't want to mess up his name. They pick up a third guy in the transfer portal from an FCS school, Michael Shanahan. The moral of the story is I think they're deep. They probably feel good about 7 or 8 guys on that offensive line, returning a decent amount of guys who were very, very good from last year. And that's so important. Having a deep offensive line that you can go to. People are going to get hurt on the offensive line. It's just a fact of how the offensive line works. People get rolled up on. Having 7, 8, 9 guys that you're very comfortable coming in and being really, really effective in pass protection is going to be key. And I think Texas Tech will be able to do that. I think this offense is a little bit of a sleeper team, and they will be able to put up points. What I want to focus on a little bit more is that defensive side of the ball. And the number one thing when I'm looking at defenses, going back in the film and evaluating what defenses I like, you start with the defensive line. In college football, if you can create pressure, get quarterback, create those havoc plays, sacks, tackles for loss, negative plays, but also quarterback pressures when quarterbacks start throwing the ball early. You can create turnovers. That is massive. Texas Tech, 109th in the country in total sacks. Wasn't great from last year, but they bring back some guys that you got to feel good about. Starting with Tyree Wilson, 13.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. This guy can win kind of multiple ways. He can win around the edge. He can win right through tackles. He's going to be a guy that you look for to have 10 to 12 sacks on this year. Now, you know he's going to be a good ball player. Who else is going to step up and kind of create some pressure, create some havoc in the backfield? A guy that kind of was popping out on film from the inside is Jalen Hutchins. He got a few tackles for a loss, was just consistently getting behind the line of scrimmage. Guy that can push the pocket in the pass rush. Guy that I like, but you're gonna look for more guys that you can create those pressures with. And when you don't have a ton of elite edge rushers that Texas Tech might not have, you got to be able to scheme up pressures. We've talked about this a lot. Look at Oklahoma State last year. They led the country in sacks, had one of the best defenses in the country. They don't have elite edge guys. They have solid edge guys, but what they do the best is they scheme up pressures. They play that 3-3-5 defense where you don't really know where people are coming from, and they rely on getting pressures from schemed up blitzes, exotic blitzes. Look for Texas Tech to do that a little bit because they don't have like premier edge production out of those guys outside of Tyree Wilson. But again, I think that unit can be okay. The strength of this unit is in that back end, the linebackers and the secondary. Looking at a guy, Merriweather, at the linebacker position, what I saw from him, just flying around, making a lot of plays. Tackle machine. I expect him to be kind of a first-team All-Big 12 type of guy. And then you add Dimitri Moore, who I'm not positive, but I noticed he was from Cedar Hill, Texas. I wonder if Coach McGuire coached him in college, and that's how he got him in the transfer portal. Coached him in high school, excuse me. That's how he got him in the transfer portal. I don't know that, but I suspect that could be a role. Coming in from an FCS school, I believe Southeastern Missouri State, he's a guy that early in his career was kind of a tackle machine, 80, 60 tackles a season in like 2018, 2019. Battled injuries the last couple of years. I think he can be kind of a producer at that linebacker position. But again, I want to emphasize this Merriweather kid. He's really, really good. From what I was watching on the film, I put him right on my 2023 NFL draft board watch list because he's a stud. And then the back end, it's a really talented group from what I was seeing, from what I'm reading from the 24/7 beat writers. It's a very talented group. I just want to see that talent equal production on the field. I mean, they were giving up almost 270 yards per game in the passing. Kind of got shredded by a couple teams like Texas through the air. This is a good group that you want to see kind of put it together on field. I mean, you look to the safeties. I mean, Marquise Waters is a guy that went down early in the season. He'll be back. And then Dadrian Taylor Demerson, 3 interceptions on the year. They got 2 really good safeties you feel good about. And then Adrian Fry at the cornerback position. reading a lot of good things about him. Again, talented group. How well are they going to be able to gel and kind of put that talent to really good production in the secondary? What I want to do now is take a look at this Texas Tech schedule. Again, it's a team that the stigma is like they're not a good Big 12 football team. They went 7-6, had a very, very impressive bowl game win against a good Mississippi State team. And you kind of want to – I think they're getting a little undervalued. DraftKings, we're going to pull up their schedule here. DraftKings has them at 5.5 wins. I think they can go bowl eligible. That black dot on the screen, that is wild. We're going to pull up this schedule and take a look at what they got going on. So 5.5 wins is what DraftKings put them at. They open up against Murray State. That should be an easy win, and whatever quarterback wins that job should be able to get really, really good in-game reps, getting ready for a massive game against Houston on September 10th. Beat Houston last year, but this Houston team, we've already previewed. I haven't done a video on them yet. They're going to be a very good football team. I have them in my top 25. This is where you're going to see what is this Texas Tech team about. Even if they don't beat Houston, if they're competitive with a really good team, I think they're the best group of 5 team in the country. That's going to be it's going to be the game where you see what Texas Tech is about. But they really open up in a tough way. NC State's a top 10 team on my board. I mean, they're a really good team that returning a lot of good talent, and they're on the road there. And then they play Texas. That's always going to be a winnable game. I'm not going to be a believer in Texas. They're an awesome team on paper. Not going to be a believer in Texas until they put it on the field. I think they can. But again, that's a winnable game. Texas is known for dropping those games. They've always figured out how to lose games. And so even if you start out 1-3, now you got to start taking advantage of a team like Kansas State. Certainly can pick up a game on the road. You go to Oklahoma State and Stillwater. That's going to be a tough game. They have a very good defense. West Virginia is a winnable game. I think Baylor is a very gettable team as well, losing a lot of guys on the defense side of the ball. TCU, Kansas, Iowa State. This should be 3 straight wins. And then you finish your season at Oklahoma. It's a tough schedule. When you throw in a team like Houston and NC State in your out-of-conference schedule, it's going to be a tough grind to get to a bowl game. I mean, those teams are both really, really good. The Big 12, as much as it's gettable this year, I think the depth in the Big 12 is pretty good. You have Kansas on your schedule, which is always good. Should be a free win. 5.5 wins. I think they can get to 6 wins. And as a season outlook for them, I think that's what you want to see. You want to see them get to that 6 wins. You want to see them get to a bowl game and kind of start building back this program. That's what they did last year. Then you want to keep that momentum going. Again, it's a good team, and Texas Tech kind of has a stigma of not being a good team in the Big 12. They are a very solid team in the Big 12 who's capable of beating anybody. And so optimistic about this Texas Tech team. I want to thank you guys for checking this out. We put a lot of work into this Texas Tech team. I watched a little bit more film than I thought I would. If you guys liked the video, subscribe to the channel. We will be talking some Texas Tech football. I can't wait to preview that Houston game later on in the summer. We appreciate you guys for watching. We're going to talk to y'all later.